Hi, this is Mike Hendricks here. I'm an Evernote certified consultant, and today we're looking at how do you use Evernote for CRM or customer relationship management. The first thing you want to do is head off to your notebook section, and here you want to create a number of notebooks to specifically help you with your CRM. Now, in this particular example, I'm using Evernote Business, but it really doesn't matter if you're using free Evernote or if you're using Evernote Premium, Evernote Plus. What you're doing here is absolutely the same throughout. Now, when I've named my notebooks, and you can see that I've made them here, the first one I've called $1 Biz Card, $1 Cold Leads, $2 Prospects, $3 Appointment Scheduled, $4 Follow Up After Appointment, $5 Drip Nurture, $6 Customer, and $7 Lost and Abandoned. Now, although I've chosen these particular names, in your organization, your sales workflow might change slightly. So, for instance, it's quite possible that your Drip Nurture notebook should come between your cold leads and your prospects, or between your prospects and appointment schedule. So that's up to you. But let's just follow the workflow and show you how to do it. It's quite easy. You would tap on New Notebook link here. It would give you the option to create a notebook. Always proceed it with $1. Okay? And the reason why I've done this is because I want to have it in a situation where everybody can see it. Okay, so this is about CRM. So this is the setup in Evernote Business, but otherwise you would just be able to do this. So what I've done is I've created another notebook here called Warm Leads. Now, I wouldn't normally use this in my workflow, but you might have that. So you might differentiate between cold leads and warm leads. Now, what we do here with this particular system is we can create a new note in cold leads, for instance. So when we have a prospect, here's a new note, and I would call this by the person's name. So if the client or the lead's name is Jack Sparrow, we can then give some information about what we know. So normally we would have their contact details. So it will be telephone number 555-5432. Okay, we would have information about their address. And we could have 1 Park Place, Johannesburg, New York, wherever you want. Okay, we could have a link, for instance, to their Twitter profile. We could put in a link to their LinkedIn profile. All that stuff can happen right here in terms of creating what we call, or what I call, a customer record card. Now, underneath that, we can draw a line so we know that the information above here is how to get hold of them. Of course, you'll also want to put their email address. Okay, so at a glance, you'll be able to contact, phone the client, and whatever. You might also want to put some information here about how you met Jack Sparrow. So, trade show for the environment. I'm ad-libbing here, but you get the drift. So you know where your lead source is. And we can also, of course, create a template for this. Now, the reason why I don't do that is I'll explain later. But it's not a bad idea to create a template. Now, I use each time I phone Jack Sparrow, so I'm going to phone him because I've seen him at the trade lead, I merely put the date, and I call Jack and I say, Jack, remember me? I saw you at the trade show, and would you mind if I sent you some information about this catalytic converter or the solar geyser or whatever, or the widget that I sell? And Jack says, yeah, sure, Mike, I remember you. Out of all those hundreds of people, you're the guy with a funny nose or whatever the case is. And he says, yeah, do that. So I can then make a note to say initiate drip nurture. And he might say to me, well, while you're about it, why don't you give me a quote for that solar geyser? So then I will type solar geyser quote required. Okay. And that's the interactions that I have with Jack Sparrow. So Jack Sparrow then moves from a cold lead. He jumps right ahead of a prospect and becomes kind of almost like an appointment scheduled, if you like, or drip nurture. Okay. Or follow up after appointment, because essentially my telephone conversation with him became an appointment. So if I go back to my notebooks now, my notebook view, and you'll see here's follow up after appointment. If I click onto that notebook, you can see all the notes with that need follow up, and Jack Sparrow's is here. Now what I've done here is I've dragged my notebooks across into my shortcuts. How do I do that? Well, let me just let me take this one out. So if I go back to my notebooks, and you can see these relate. I've got BizCard there. I haven't got cold leads. So I grab my notebook and I pull it across, and you can see a little line developing there, and I put it in the place that I want it to be. So right there. So there's my cold leads. Now, earlier on I added a warm lead. I think I can add it there. So everyone has a different sales cycle, but each notebook becomes the next step in your sales cycle. So you can see now, follow up after appointment, I've got Jack Sparrow. So what I do here is I create the quote for him. All right. And I then put a line underneath. I go into the next thing and I put the date, and I then say this would be the 21st because the other one was yesterday's date, and then I have put sent quote, and in my case I use a program called Quote Roller, and I would add the link in to the quote. Okay. Or if you store your quotes on Google Docs, you can add the link to the Google Drive right here as well, or you can even attach the quote in PDF into this note, which is quite useful. So you can see that from oldest to newest, you now have a history of your interactions with Jack Sparrow. So now I've sent him the quote, and that means we need to go to the next step. So from follow up after appointment, I've done that. I'll put him into my drip nurture thing, which basically for me, and let me go to that notebook so you can see that we've moved him across. For me, drip nurture means an automated email autoresponder, okay, that talks about our credibility, that talks about things that Jack might be interested in, and he then gets onto that drip nurture thing. I can also make, I will know now that I've sent him a quote, and I'll know that I have to follow up with him. So what I do is I hit my reminder button here within Evernote, and I add a date that I need to follow up with him, either tomorrow, in a week, or a specific date. So in this case, I'm going to say tomorrow. All right, because I want to know whether he's got my quote, whether it's landed in his spam box or whatever. So that is the basic thought processes behind what we need to do. Now, I'm a GTD, or Getting Things Done by David Allen, fan. So what I would normally do is I would add a tag as well. And in all cases, I've got a number of tags that fulfill in with my GTD philosophy. And in this particular case, I would just tag it with a next action. So what I would do on my daily thing is come along and have a look at do a search for all my next actions, and that will pull me up that I've got to actually follow up with Jack Sparrow as well. And if you follow this process, you can work your customers through the whole thing from business card, and I'll talk about that now, cold leads, warm leads, prospects, schedule an appointment with them, go and see the appointment, and I want to talk to you about how I handle appointments as well, because that's just genius. And then follow up after appointment, which might require a quote, it might require finding further information, it might require putting a proposal together. Then if there's a period of time between the proposal and the expected close of the deal, I would add in a drip nurture thing here. But invariably, my drip nurture fits in earlier on in the process. And then guess what? Jack Sparrow comes back to me and he says to me, Mike, yeah, I accept your quote. So I'll just do a search here for Jack Sparrow, pull him up, here he is here, and I move him to my customer notebook. Okay, and that's fantastic. So Jack is now my first customer in this demo CRM package, and I would, of course, make a note, because that's what it's all about. So once again, draw a line, go above the line, put the date in, and say accepted quote. And at this point, I might then remove the next actions tag and put a delegated tag, waiting for, and then put somebody in my network who is likely to do the follow-up or the implementation of the project. So I would then, add that in here. And I would also then share this this note with the particular person that's involved in the whole thing. So either by copying the note link or by using the work chat facility, or just simply hitting here, sharing the note, and pulling up the person involved who will do the follow up. Okay, so that's how I'd handle CRM. Of course, the big magic for me you'll see in the next video, and why I've created a biz card section, because you will see how easy it is to bring people into your system. So that's how I recommend you use CRM within Evernote.